You're tuned in to the English Up Podcast.
Brought to you by the Speak English with Us.
Quick question. How many things are already shouting at you today? A client message, a team ping, a supplier delay, maybe 3 tabs open and your brain already tired?
If your phone feels like a tiny chaos machine, this episode is for you. You're not lazy. You're probably stuck in a bad system.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. Beginners, you're welcome too. And by the end, you'll hear a simple way to make startup work cleaner, faster, and less noisy.
Here's the real problem. You can be busy all day and still miss the one decision that actually moves the business. The team keeps asking, the work keeps bouncing, and somehow nothing lands.
Yes, that awful feeling when design waits for copy waits for approval, sales waits for pricing, and everyone's polite but stuck.
It's like a project gets wedged in a door, and everybody keeps pushing from different sides.
And the scary part is, you start thinking the answer is more effort, more calls, more messages, more updates. But often, the problem is a bottleneck somewhere in the process.
I've definitely been the person sending just checking in for the 4th time, like that somehow counts as progress.
Oh, same. And then you look at your day and realize you've spent more time on follow-through questions than on actual decisions.
That's why this episode matters. We're talking about a decision calendar, close-the-loop rules, and a 15-minute weekly reset. 3 small habits that can change how a team moves.
So if you've ever thought, why are we still talking about this? Stay with us.
Quick challenge. In your head, is your biggest pain point more A, too many decisions, or B, too many handoffs?
And yes, we already know what you're doing right now. You're probably listening while pretending to answer one more Slack message.
Later, we'll give you one tiny trick that helps everyone stay on the same page without 5 extra meetings.
And if your team has been circling the same task for days, this one's going to feel uncomfortably familiar.
Good. A little discomfort can be useful, especially when it leads to cleaner work.
Let's start with the real scene. The one nobody posts online. It's 9:10 a.m. and your phone already has 6 pings, 2 voice notes, 1 urgent client edit, and a team member asking for approval on a detail that should have been settled yesterday.
And by 9:20, you're already solving problems for 3 people. But none of the important decisions are actually closed. That's where the stress hides.
Exactly. The work looks active, but the system is leaking time everywhere. One message turns into 3 follow-up questions, and then the whole day gets broken into tiny pieces.
That's the bottleneck, not the big project itself, the tiny waiting points inside it.
The weird part is, everybody feels productive because they're replying quickly. But quick replies aren't the same as real progress.
I've done that. I've answered fast, then answered again, then answered a slightly different version of the same question. Congratulations to me, I guess.
No wonder founders feel tired. Their brains never get to settle into one thread. They keep jumping across a loop of half-finished decisions.
And a loop isn't just a nice circle word here. It's the set of people and steps that keep the task moving, or keep it stuck if nobody owns the next move.
So imagine a launch. Marketing waits for pricing waits for finance waits for the final scope, and the founder is asked to just confirm everything.
That's not a launch. That's a traffic jam with nice fonts.
Exactly. And the pain is not only delay, it's the mental tax of remembering who's waiting on what.
Here's the first practical fix. A decision calendar. Put the decisions that always return pricing, launch dates, hiring steps, content approvals on one regular day, same day, same slot, every week.
So instead of thinking, I need to decide this sometime, you already know when the decision lives. That alone lowers the noise.
And when a decision has a home, people stop interrupting you with random check-ins. They wait for the calendar, which is much calmer than waiting for your mood.
My mood is not a scheduling tool, sadly.
Mine either. And this is where follow-through matters. If you say the decision day is Tuesday, then Tuesday has to mean Tuesday. If not, people learn that the rule is fake.
Right, because trust is built on the thing after the promise, not the promise itself.
And that leads to the second habit, close the loop rules. Every task should name the owner, the deadline, and the next action before it counts as done.
So if a designer sends a draft, the handoff to copy shouldn't just be, here you go. It should be, copy, please revise by Thursday, then send back for final check.
That's a handoff with shape. Without that shape, work floats.
And floating work is exhausting because nobody knows whether to move, wait, or ask again.
Which creates the classic founder sentence, let me just check one more time, then another time, then another.
And by the way, there's a phrase for this. We'll break it down later because it keeps showing up in startup life.
Want to try a mini reset right now? Think of one project in your head and ask, who owns it? What's the next step? And when does it close?
If you can answer those three things, the project breathes a little easier. And so do you.
That's the point. Less waiting, less guessing, less just checking. More movement.
And in a startup, that's not a small win. That's the difference between busy and actually moving forward.
Next, we'll show you the cleaner part, how to spot the worst slowdown fast, then fix it with a 15-minute weekly reset.
Okay, so the idea sounds neat, but I want to push on it. What if a decision calendar just turns into another calendar full of meetings?
That's fair, but the calendar isn't the problem. Random decision-making is. If every choice shows up whenever someone feels stressed, the team loses time and focus.
I get that, but a startup is messy by nature. A founder can't always wait for Tuesday to decide whether a client gets a discount or the launch changes again.
True, and I'm not saying wait forever. I'm saying group the repeat decisions. When you batch them, you protect the rest of the week from little fires.
But what if the fire is real? Suppose a supplier is late and a customer needs an answer now. A fixed day can feel too rigid.
Then the rule isn't never decide outside the calendar. The rule is urgent gets urgent treatment. Normal gets scheduled treatment. That distinction saves the team from living in permanent panic.
That makes sense in theory, but I still think teams hide behind systems sometimes. A pretty process can become a way to avoid ownership.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why the close the loop rule matters. If a task has no owner, no deadline, and no next action, then it's not a task yet. It's just a floating wish.
A floating wish. That sounds painfully accurate. I've seen 5 people nod in a meeting and then everyone leaves thinking someone else will handle it.
And that's where the loop breaks. One person thinks the handoff is done, another person thinks the work is still waiting, and the message disappears into thin air.
But I still worry that too much structure can slow down creative teams. If every handoff needs a checklist, don't people lose momentum?
Not if the checklist is tiny. You're not building a legal contract. You're asking 3 things. Who owns it? When is it due? And what happens next?
So the point isn't control for control's sake. It's clarity.
Exactly. A clean handoff actually gives people more freedom because they don't have to guess. Guessing is expensive.
I still think some founders will say, this sounds good, but my team already knows what to do. Then the week starts, and somehow they're still asking, did you send that? Every afternoon.
Right, and that question is usually the sound of a loop leaking. The work didn't disappear, it just lost its path.
Okay, let's pressure test the weekly reset too. 15 minutes sounds almost too small. What can you really fix in 15 minutes?
More than you think, because you're not solving everything. You're finding the one bottleneck that slowed the week down most. 1, not 7.
So if sales waited 3 days for pricing, and design waited for copy, and operations waited for a final sign-off, you pick the biggest drag?
Exactly. You name it, write it down, and decide one small change for next week. Maybe it's a faster approval window. Maybe it's a clearer owner. Maybe it's one fewer handoff.
But isn't that still a lot of work for a tiny meeting?
No, because the cost of not doing it is huge. The team keeps repeating the same delay, and every repeat makes the bottleneck harder to see.
That's the part founders miss. They think speed comes from pushing harder. But sometimes speed comes from removing one stuck point.
And that stuck point isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just one approval hiding in the middle of the loop.
Okay, but what about teams that say, we're already on the same page? I hear that all the time right before 3 people interpret the same message 3 different ways.
Exactly, and that's why on the same page can't just be a feeling. It has to be visible in writing, in deadlines, and in who owns what.
So you're saying alignment isn't the vibe in the room. It's the record of the decision.
Yes, and that record stops the same issue from coming back every 2 days. Without it, the same loop keeps reopening.
I can see the argument now. The calendar reduces mental clutter, the close the loop rule reduces confusion, and the reset finds the bottleneck before it grows.
And if someone says, we don't need this much structure, I'd ask, how much time are you already losing to repeated questions and unfinished handoffs?
Woof. That question hurts because it's true.
It does, but it's useful truth. A team doesn't need more heroic effort. It needs fewer invisible leaks.
And that's the real shift. Not working louder, just working cleaner. So now the pattern is clear. Less chasing, fewer mixed signals, and way fewer wait who owns this moments.
Exactly. We've talked about the decision calendar, the close the loop rule, and that 15-minute reset. And all of them point to one thing, clarity.
And if those ideas felt practical, good? Because next we're pulling out the 5 phrases that held the whole episode together.
Yeah, the words are simple, but the way they work in real work life is surprisingly powerful.
Okay, let's go back to that messy startup day for a second. Because the phrases we use today show up right inside that chaos.
Right, and the first one is bottleneck. In a team, that's the one point that slows everything else down. Like one approval blocking 5 other tasks.
So if design is ready, copy is ready. And the only thing missing is legal approval. Legal is the bottleneck.
Exactly. It's not the whole system breaking. It's one narrow spot clogging the flow.
I've been that bottleneck before, by the way. I once said, I'll reply soon, and somehow soon became tomorrow afternoon.
That's honest and painfully relatable. In a startup, a bottleneck can be a person, a tool, or even a habit of waiting too long.
And when people say, where's the bottleneck, they're really asking, where's the slowdown coming from? That's the useful business question.
Good. Now the next phrase is follow through. That means you said you do it and then you actually finish it. Not just start it.
So sending one message isn't follow through if the file never arrives.
Exactly. In a startup, follow through is huge because promises travel fast. If you say the deck's coming at 3 p.m., people plan around that.
And if 3 p.m. turns into 5 p.m., the whole loop gets shaky.
Yes, and that word loop matters too. A loop is the circle of people or steps that keep a task moving. The designer, the writer, the founder, the client, all connected.
So when the loop is clean, Everyone knows what just happened and what happens next.
Exactly. The loop is what keeps the work alive. If one person disappears from it, the task can stall even if everyone is busy.
That explains why so many teams feel tired without feeling finished. They're moving inside a broken loop.
And sometimes the break happens at the handoff. A handoff is when one person passes work to another, like design sending files to copy or sales passing feedback to operations.
The handoff sounds tiny, but if it's sloppy, everything gets messy.
Right. A clean handoff says who has it now, what they need, and when they need it. A bad handoff sounds like, I thought you had that.
Which is basically the sentence every stressed founder hears at least once a week.
Probably more than once. And that's why we also talked about being on the same page. That means agreeing and understanding things in the same way.
So it's not just we nodded in the meeting. It's we all know the plan, the deadline, and the owner.
Yes, being on the same page is visible. You can see it in the calendar, the note, the deadline, the next step.
Let's make this real. If I say, we need the pricing update by Friday, and you say, got it, I'll send it by Thursday evening, that's follow-through and on the same page.
And if I send it to the wrong person, that's a bad handoff with a bonus bottleneck.
That's horrible but accurate.
The nice thing is, these phrases aren't just vocabulary. They describe the exact problems growing teams face every day.
And once you can name the problem, it gets easier to fix. That's why this word tour matters.
One more quick check. If the writer finishes but the founder never replies, is that follow-through?
No, because the loop isn't closed. And the work still isn't moving.
Perfect. That's the whole idea in a nutshell.
So to wrap up, today we talked about why founders often feel super busy but still stuck, juggling endless tasks without real progress.
We broke it down into 3 key ideas. First, the decision calendar, which helps group important choices into set times instead of reacting all day.
Second, close the loop rules, making sure every task has a clear owner, deadline, and next step so it doesn't get lost in handoffs or forgotten.
And third, the 15-minute weekly reset, just enough time to spot your biggest bottleneck and make a simple fix without drowning in meetings.
I've seen teams try harder without these practices and still get stuck chasing updates, answering the same questions, or waiting for missing pieces.
Honestly, I've been that founder lost in endless just checking messages instead of real decisions. These methods changed that for me.
So here are a few practical tips to try. 1. Make a simple calendar just for key decisions. It doesn't have to be fancy Google Calendar or Trello works.
2. Require a quick closing note when handing off work. Who's responsible, deadline, next steps. It helps everyone stay on the same page.
And 3. Schedule a short weekly chat no longer than 15 minutes to find and fix the biggest bottleneck first.
Changes don't have to be huge overnight. Even small steps make a difference, especially in a fast-moving startup.
I encourage you to test 1 or 2 of these for a week or 2. Notice if your team feels lighter or communication clears up.
Next time, we'll dive into tools that make these habits even easier. For example, how to use Notion or Trello for decision tracking.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us, what's the biggest stumbling block your team faces in making decisions?
We read every comment carefully. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.